Hi, Carolyn. Welcome to the show. Welcome back, I should say.
Right. It has. This is a welcome back, isn't it?
It is, and I'm so thankful that we are seeing each other again, although I know you're going to be in my life forever, because you're such a bright spot, not just as a person, but also you had such a huge impact on my journey. So I was just telling my community about the story of us working together. Actually, I told them this story for multiple reasons. First, I told them because I wanted to tell them how, I had this moment in my career where I felt like I got everything I wanted and like, what's next? And I was kind of feeling flat. And I said, I know who to call, Carolyn Herfurth, because literally her positioning a niche is so specifically exactly what I'm going through. So I brought it up as a great story of niching. As I said, literally, like, she helps 6 and 7 figure business owners who are like doing really well, but they're like not sure what their next step is. And maybe they're just feeling a little flat. That was my word, not yours necessarily, but just, I said, it could not have better described exactly the moment I was in. So I just called her up and was like, so I guess we got to work together because I'm exactly you help.
It's pretty much how it happened.
Right? And so I told them that story, and it was a good example of why niching and good messaging is so important. And then I told them that, well, how did I know you? I don't know how we initially connected or met, but I said I had been to Carolyn's house before because she hosted at least 1 or 2 like little luncheons with some other amazing women, which is how I met Hillary Weiss as well, who was a speaker at one of our retreats a couple years ago. But I know her through that lunch that you hosted where we all got a little saucy with the margaritas in the afternoon.
They were good.
You make a mean margarita. I said, and guess what? Like, that all happened because she hosted this lunch. And that's something I train them to do inside this program too. We call it a 1KO, like hosting things and bringing people together and kind of being the person who's introducing people, but also as a way to deepen relationships. So I said, look at how that worked, because I knew her because of that and I knew her very well. So then when I needed the thing, I called her up and there was no selling. I just knew I needed to hire her. And that's the ecosystem that I want all of you listeners to be creating as well. So you're just a perfect representation of all of those things.
Perfect.
And then I said, well, she's coming on the show tomorrow. So how exciting. So Carolyn, when we last worked together, which was 3 or 4 years ago at this point, I then made this transition into selling this program. And shortly thereafter, you actually took a little detour into helping another business start that maybe you were coaching her. How did that come about, and what is it?
It's so funny. So it was about 4 years ago where a woman who I had been in a business mastermind with, Dr. Valerie Young, we'd known each other 10 or 15 years. She lives in Massachusetts. We used to see each other at masterminds. Then when I moved to New York 14, 15 years ago, we were both on East Coast, so we got to see each other more often. And I called her one day because I heard she's an expert. She's a thought leader on imposter syndrome. And I heard someone talking about imposter syndrome using her content, her point of view. So I called her and I said, does that happen often? She said, all the time. People are always using my content. And I said, well, what's going to happen to your business and your point of view? And what happens when you retire? She was in her 60s at the time. And she said, I don't know. And I said, have you ever thought about licensing? She said, I have. And I'm thinking, great, she'll be a client, because I can help her with licensing. And she emails me 2 weeks later and she goes, I want to license. You make good points, but I'll only do it if you're my 50-50 partner. So she flipped the script on me. I had no intention of starting another business because I love coaching entrepreneurs. I'm a coach, but I love that strategic thought partnership. And when she said, I want you to be a 50-50 partner, I'm like, I'm not into partnerships, but I'll try it. So that's what we've been doing. Yeah.
Wow. And so what did you guys, I have some questions about that. I think I said to you once, I need to get Dr. Valerie on this show because imposter syndrome is very real and rampant amongst all entrepreneurs. Can you give us just kind of like a high level of how you guys have been helping people with imposter syndrome and what her point of view is?
So the reason she wanted me to come in was to help her execute scaling her thought leadership. and creating a new business model around her thought leadership, because she had written a book 10, 15 years ago, and she was making money speaking. That's all she did. She spoke. She wasn't a coach. She wasn't teaching anybody anything. It was just, this is my talk, getting paid for keynotes, and done. And so what I did is came in and we created a licensing program. So we teach speakers how to deliver her talk, which is called Rethinking Impostor Syndrome. And so we have a licensing program. So people pay a one-time fee and then an annual renewal. So that's a nice revenue stream. It's wonderful to have people out there delivering the exact same solution that Valerie does. And so that's one thing we've done. And then we also created a coach training. So we call it the Impostor Syndrome Informed Coach. So we're teaching coaches, how do you actually, it's a very nuanced topic, and I know you talk about it with other people, so you know that as well. But we don't want people screwing it up. And there are a lot of narratives out there about imposter syndrome, like it's your superpower. No, it's not. That's like a male narrative.
Okay.
It's not a female narrative. And so we teach coaches, here are tools you can use. Here's a conceptual framework, and here are tools you can use. So when you're in a conversation with a client, here's something you can ask them. Here are things you can do. Here are approaches you can take with them. So that's something that we've delivered live 5 times. And now that's going to Evergreen. So we'll have second levels to it. But, that's something, launches can be very time consuming. So that's been it. And then I also, we're working more on doing more in corporate. So, I'm delivering a talk to EY, to their internal coaches, and, helping them really get their arms wrapped around it and their heads wrapped around it, because they're dealing with, managing partners and people who are at the top of their game, but still dealing with this issue. So there are lots of things we can do with B2B as well, but we've really been doing capacity building with coaches and speakers who are more external.
And the speakers are licensing the information so they can disseminate it. And
exactly.
The coaches are learning it so they can help their clients. So you're one step above everywhere the people who are actually dealing with the imposter syndrome. Is that right?
100%. Yep, that's exactly what it is. So we're not getting clients for them. They have their own clients. They're getting their own clients. We're just saying, no, just deliver the right information.
Yes. Yeah. And so you can help people get over their imposter syndrome?
Yeah, exactly. Can you
Really?
believe it? I know.
No.
There's a solution.
There's a solution. Can you give us like a very simple, high-level idea of what that looks like?
Well, I think the first thing is just to normalize it and know that, the thing is, it's an experience that a lot of people feel. Up to 82% of people experience imposter syndrome at one time or another. So, business owners.
I'm surprised it's not 100%.
I know. In some cases it is. Actually, it's funny because I always do polls when I'm doing talks, and there are audiences where 100% say, yes, I've absolutely experienced it. But it is that belief or feeling that you are not as talented or capable or qualified or competent as other people think you are, despite past evidence of your success, your accomplishments, your business growth, promotions, raises, things like that. And so it's one of those things that if you normalize it by knowing a lot of people experience it, the more successful you get, sometimes the more you experience it again, because it's like 71%, Korn Ferry found 71% of CEOs experience imposter syndrome. CEOs, come on. So if anyone thinks, oh, the more experienced you get and the more successful you get, the less you'll feel it, it's not true. It's actually one of the paradoxes of imposter syndrome. But really what we do is just help people understand, first of all, it's normal. Second of all, if you can learn to think like people who don't experience imposter syndrome, we call them humble realists, and their specific characteristics and thought patterns of humble realists. If you can learn to think like a humble realist, you can neutralize your own imposter syndrome. So that's what we teach.
So this sounds like a training that me and my team need to take so that we can help our clients with their imposter syndrome. Fabulous. So you've been building this business with her for 4 years. I know you didn't table your business, but you definitely had to give it some energy. But it sounds like now that you've gotten it to a stable place and maybe you can be scaling it, you're bringing your business back in to the fold a little bit more. Is that right?
Oh, I miss coaching so much. I mean, when we originally started the business, Valerie said, oh, well, you can work 20 hours a week on Impostor Syndrome Institute and 20 hours a week on your own business. Well, ISI, Impostor Syndrome Institute, quickly became 60 hours a week. It like took over my entire life. I mean, what entrepreneur, how many of us work 40-hour weeks anyway, right? But it quickly became 60. And so I realized after about a year and a half, I'm like, I am not getting back to coaching anytime soon. So I really had to scale back, and that crushed my soul. Like, I love the work that I'm doing with Valerie because it's really meaningful. We're making a big difference. We have clients in 25 countries, coaches, speakers. Like, the international expansion has been so much fun. But God, I mean, I was sitting around the pool with my best friend this summer, and she's a senior managing partner at EY. So like way up there. And she said, have you ever taken a look at the results your clients have gotten by working with you? And I said, I have anecdotal evidence, but I haven't really done it. So I went back and I did an analysis, and I was like, what in the F am I not coaching for? Like, I need to get back stat, because the return on investment, the business growth, the people I love working with, like you, so much. It just, all of a sudden, I just got this deep, deep longing for wanting to get back into it. So I'm, have been working the last 6 months trying to position Impostor Syndrome Institute so that I can take on a few clients again. So,
very cool. Very cool. And I'm not surprised. I mean, there's no way that your clients aren't getting an exponential return. And part of that is because your clients they're not newbies.
Nope.
Right? So, I was checking out your website before we came on. I saw Jen Spivak on there. They do our Facebook ads.
You met her on my patio, Pia.
Really?
Yes, you did.
Was in my mind. Really?
Yeah.
Well, I don't. Are you sure?
I'm not sure, but I know she was at that.
Okay.
She was at that one.
She was at that one. Okay. Well, I don't know. When I connected with her, we swim in the same circles, and she lives in Queens.
Yeah.
Right. Of course.
Yeah.
So it was like New Yorkers talking. I was like, "You're the person I want in my ads."
Mm-hmm.
The last guy I had in my ads, no offense, but was like a Southern guy who's talking at like, snail's pace. And I was like, this is not going to work for me.
It's like following someone slow on the sidewalk. I mean, come
exactly
on.
Like that.
Seriously.
I said that to Jen. I was like, not for my ads, maybe for my aunt's husband's fine, but not the person running my ad campaign. Anyway, Jen Spivak, she's the killer too. You work with people who have already had a lot of success. And when you go to a fire that's already burning and you pour any sort of, your brilliance onto it, helping people who have already made a decent amount of money see an opportunity can be worth millions of dollars. Mm-hmm. And especially when you're working with people who are also the kind of people who are very open to that kind of, like those kinds of ideas or entertaining things they've never thought about. I feel like that's part of the recipe of working with you is that you're going to help people who are very good at what they do, like see the pieces that they might just not see from inside the jar.
And that's just it. I've come to realize that I work with outlier entrepreneurs, and that's the person who really already has a successful business, because not everybody does. You don't hesitate. It just, you got it. You have so many assets and experience, but a lot of it has become, it's weighing you down. It's getting in the way so there's just stuff we need to get rid of and really say, okay, this is what you should focus on. And oftentimes my clients already have the ideas or the seed of an idea, but can't see the way there. And so my role is really to make sense of things and to challenge assumptions and to challenge the old way of thinking and to challenge even the new way of thinking so that we can make it as optimal as possible. And you're right. That's why. My clients get it like on average 11x ROI on what they pay me I always say within a year, but it's usually way faster. So yeah, that's not bad.
Well, and you're talking about within a year. The reason I love coaching and taking I'm also a coach program hoarder is because if you get an 11x ROI, let's say, on working with you in a couple months or even a year, that's not the ROI. The ROI is everything after that, you know? So the first time we did that VIP day and I did that 1 year mastermind, that was kind of like the seed for what became this program. Because then we did it again the next year, and it was kind of, you asked me something. I tell people this all the time, Carolyn. I talk about you all the time because these sessions we had just unblocked or opened things, you're right, that were there kind of somewhere. So you said to me, you said, what is the thing that you have that nobody else has? What is the thing that you could do that absolutely no one else in the world could do? Which is a hard question for most people to answer. And, you know, it's hard to think you have something nobody else has. But I was like, gosh darn it, it's this model. It's this intensives model. I know it's there. I know people have been asking me for it for years. I've been talking about how I should do it at some point. Seems like a big deal. And it was just a combination of you asking me that and kind of being like, what could this really look like? And then me going, yeah, that is what I have. I think maybe the way you just framed it, I was like, yeah, if this is the thing I have that nobody else has, I have to delete 10,000 people off my email list and go all in on this because, you know, how could I not?
And it's paid off.
And it's paid off. Well, that's what I'm saying. So the payoff is exponential because that ROI, well, everything I make from this business is an ROI off of that. Arguably,
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, but you're right. It is the thing that I think I do really well is when a client comes in, I'm looking at not just what the client's experience is, because a lot of times, like you say, feeling flat, I am going to steal that, Pia. That's going somewhere on my website. It might just be a quote from Pia Silva, but that is the case. Like, you're not who you were when you started the business. So how do we get the business to catch up to who you are today and who you're turning into? But also, what's your partner's participation? Like husband, spouse, you know, whatever. What's the client experience? What are they looking for? What about vendors? What about other, like, I walk around the entire business, not just your experience, but the entire business. So I'm looking at it from all the angles so that we can come in and say, yes, this is what makes sense for everybody. That's how we raise it all up. And, you know, I just have a really kind of, I was going to say strange background, but a very unique background, you know, having come from sales in corporate, you know, selling software for Oracle, helping people find and start franchises, creating programs and being a creator myself. Like, it's just, it is one of those things. I think the franchise business was a big part of that because people came to me wanting a change in their life. They wanted to start or own a franchise, but they had spouses that were like, are you kidding me? You want to invest how much? You want to take out of our nest egg and do this? And I think that's what got me to that point of really saying, oh, well, they're a big part of your life. So what do they think? In fact, Steve joined us for your second VIP day.
Oh, I remember there were tears, there was therapy. It was definitely part therapy. Figuring out, like getting to the heart of what we wanted. Yeah, absolutely.
Because what you wanted for him was a big part of how the business was designed. Yeah.
100%.
And Axel, yeah.
You can see.
I know.
We got it.
It makes me so happy. I follow him on Instagram, and when I see his I'm like, this is what you guys wanted. It's what you pictured. And so he's able to spread so much joy through his art. It makes me so happy.
Thank you. Yeah. I mean, I love sharing these stories because it's like, oh, all of that was so intentional. Like, and it wasn't just us figuring it out. Like, we bring people in to help us. Like, you know, it's so helpful to have third parties, intelligent people with such a vast background in a lot of different things that they can pull from to ask the right questions to get you to figure out what you want and how to make the plan to get there. And the thing that when I think about our listeners and the people in my community and all of the small agencies that I coach, you know, when I'm talking about what Carolyn does, you know, we have our model, our clients intensives authority model. And what I tell people about authority, because everyone wants to get into authority right away. And I'm like, slow your roll. We got to figure out your sales. We got to figure out your process first. Authority, we want to do this right, and we don't want to build authority on something that's not unique when you don't have a voice yet, when you don't have a process, when you don't even know who you're selling to. Like, we can't start building content. It'll be very generic. But The beautiful thing about building authority is that at a certain point, so many more opportunities open up. So even though I teach people how to scale a 1 to 2 person branding agency, 30K months, 40K months without employees, it doesn't mean that's the business you're going to have forever.
Right.
Maybe you do, and it facilitates, Steve being an artist or all of those things. But maybe at that point, you'll be like me and go, okay, this is awesome, but I'm an entrepreneur, so what's next? Mm-hmm. And that's when you come in, because you've built, to your point, all these assets. When you have authority, that's one version of having all these assets. Obviously, Valerie was the opposite. She had some authority, but she didn't have all these assets. When
Right.
you build authority, you have all these assets, and you can do so many different things with them. And that's what I picture, at least for our people, where you can come in. It's mm-hmm. Once you've built the whole thing and your business is going really well, you could actually go in a lot of different directions with that authority that you build.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, absolutely. And I think it is not always easy to see it for yourself. I think I remember you saying one time that you'd always been able to figure out your next step. And then you hit a point, and I think that's why when you hired me, you're like, there was a point where I just couldn't figure out my next step by myself. I just didn't know what it was. I knew things I wanted, in terms of working 3-day weeks. Because at the first time you hired me, it was mm-hmm. Axel I don't think he was in school yet.
Oh no, he was 1 year, maybe.
Yeah. So there were things you knew you wanted in your life and your lifestyle, but you couldn't figure out in ways that you had always figured it out for yourself before. And that's what I love coming in, because I'm working with really smart people who we know you can figure it out, but do you want the shortcut or you want to take the long, and you might not figure out the quicker, more simple way of doing things. I think a lot of us have a tendency to overcomplicate. So
you think?
Myself included. I have my own coaches.
Right. Well, I know something that you help people do is sometimes craft new revenue streams, and you have a lot to pull from. Can you give some examples of, I think people go too early in the new revenue streams, before they have any revenue stream, they're trying to make other revenue streams. But when people are more successful, can you give us some examples of what kinds of revenue streams you've helped people come up with? Or
there's this really cool client. She's been in the training world for years and has created, I can't tell you how many hours, days, weeks, months of content and courses. And she has all these different interests, in psychological safety and somatic this and, failure and all these things. And she came to me, she had been through the Goldman Sachs 10,000 small businesses thing. And she's like, yeah, so I want to create this assessment, and I'm going to give the assessment away to my clients, but then use it to kind of build their training curriculum or their training plan for the year. And so I'm like, all right, I'll listen. And so she started describing it to me, and we started kind of building it out a little bit more. And I'm like, you're not giving this away. You are charging for this. This is almost more valuable than the training you will deliver on the back end of it. And so to come up, she had the idea of the assessment, but we together crafted how do we make this something that's not free, but thousands of dollars per head. And that to me, that's the kind of stuff where it's just it's just those little, sometimes it's just the nuances that make the biggest kind of difference. Another thing that I do, I feel I think about one of my clients, Beth, who she had her model. I had her raise her prices. She coaches college grads to help get their first job out of college. And we raised her prices. We did some things, but with her sales conversations were not closing very well. And so with her, it's what's the conversation you're having with the parents? Because they're the ones paying you. And I talked to her a couple months ago, and she goes, 5 years later, I am using the same conversation, and our closing rate is ridiculous. I'm like, time to raise your rates. So it's, there are, and I can't remember, I think that one was a while ago. I can't remember what else we created for her, but it's just, it's different for everybody. It's
right.
different for everybody.
Right. But it's a combination of, Is there a different way to charge for this? Is there a different way to package this? Is it the offer? Is it the positioning? Is it the sales conversation? You definitely coached me on those the first time around when I was like, had never sold like a high touch mastermind program, coached me on those sales conversations. And what's a line that you said that I like tell people this line, like, how does that line up for you? Is that your line? I associate.
Oh, it might be.
Anyway, just like little things like that. But I mean, these are things that, I've taken with me moving forward because I learned them from you. And then it's like, oh, I've done this. And now it's like how I speak or how I think about these things. So, I think it's priceless to work with smart people and have them look at your business.
I feel the same. It's priceless to work with smart people and actually do something with that. So you're a perfect example of that.
Well, thank you so much. Carolyn, how can everybody find you? I'm going to send them to your Beyond page because I know that's the main way that you work with people right now. Is that right?
It's the only way.
It's the only way. Okay. Yeah. It's the only way. You also got to just check out Carolyn's website because her website is just killer and also a great example of, great branding, great messaging. Obviously, she's great at branding and messaging. Even though you don't pitch yourself as doing those things, that's a huge part also of what you do, wouldn't you say? Because it's such a critical piece of people.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because people are going to know, they're going to hit your site and say, that's it, or they're going to steer away. So yeah it's definitely an attention grabber.
Yeah. Well, half the reason I wanted to have you come back is because you're a good representation of a lot of the things that I preach on here that people need to do for their own brands and websites, owning that niche, focusing on the benefits, having really clear offers and all the rest. So you're just wonderful and it's so nice to see you, Carolyn. Thanks so much for coming on.
I have missed you so much and you and I text or talk very occasionally, but damn, it is so good to see the great work that you're doing, what you've built, what you're doing for people. And I see how many of these branding agencies, these small 1 and 2 person branding agencies are benefiting from working with you and learning from you. It's just,
Thank you.
Keep it up.
Thank you. Well, see, you had a big part of that. So that's the ripple effect.
That's right.
Helping business owners it's the gift that keeps on giving.
That's right.
Thanks, Carolyn. I'll see you soon.
Thank you, Pia.